everybody, Danny J here. It's Capes Not Included right here on the DJB Productions Network. Hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, leave us some comments, share the channel. You have so much to do. This is such a great show, and we have a great show for everybody here. I want to make sure that you guys come back every time, so make sure that notification bell is clicked, and that way you know when we're doing these shows. But we have a great staff on here today. Let's bring up my good friend, Bobby T himself, Bob Taylor. Hey,
what's up,
Matt. What's up, Bobby T? And then we have also Matt Sutter coming in on here. Matt, good to see you as well.
Great to be back on the show.
It's a great show here. Capes Not Included. Guys, today we're going to be talking about a very, very hot subject, and that is Disney's Star Wars The Mandalorian. We're talking about season 2 today. What a great, great season 2. Spoilers, in case anybody hasn't watched it yet, you should have watched it by now anyway. But spoilers, in case you haven't watched it, we're going to talk about some really, really crazy shit that happened on this season, and all the different stuff that we were able to get out of it. First of all, once again, here's a season that delivered pow, 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 pow. One punch after the other. Okay.
Every episode had that holy shit moment.
Yeah.
On
the edge of your seat every fucking episode. Absolutely.
I mean, it was crazy. It was crazy. We get nostalgic characters from other shows. We get nostalgic characters from other movies. We get all kinds of stuff. And what I really love about The Mandalorian myself is this Old West style bounty hunt. I love that story. Yeah. I really, really do.
It's like Lone Wolf and Cub meets The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yes, yeah. and I love that. I so love that.
Even his music is like old school spaghetti western.
Yes,
yes, it is.
And he plays a great part. This is Pedro. What's his last name? Pedro
Pascal.
Pascal. He's so good as the Mandalorian. His voice is great. His voice does not match his face.
I think that's the mask that's supposed to do that. Like when they took Vader's mask off.
Yeah.
His voice didn't match the helmet,
Yeah, because they didn't want a black guy in there. So
that's the interesting thing is, now that I finished it up, Disney Plus has that series gallery where it's all like the making of the Mandalorian.
And it's really good.
Yeah, it is. And they've actually shown him then doing, the voicing, doing the redub of the voice. Yeah. And you can tell they've got his voice running through a filter because, they're just shooting them doing it. And his voice has that tone, like it's so you can tell that it's running through a filter to sound like he's in that mask.
Right. But I'll tell you that. He's such a cool character. But let's go through some of the cameos that we get in here. We get legendary character Boba Fett.
Oh, forget it.
And that was crazy.
Played by the guy who played Jango Fett.
Yes.
Is that the guy that played Jango Fett?
Yes, it is. Yes,
really?
It is.
Oh, I did not realize that.
Boba Fett is a clone of Jango Fett.
Yeah.
So it made sense to use the actor who played Jango Fett.
Right.
That was like in that one episode, they were like, I know that voice. You're a clone. And he's like, it might be the last time you ever hear it.
Yeah. It's just like, yeah.
And Katie Sackcliffe, who plays that Marauder, I forget what they call her.
Bo-Katan, yeah.
She is so hot, and I love her. Everything she's in. She was in. You're out of your mind. I first seen her.
She's like fucking Katie Couric, like in a fucking Mando suit.
Katie Couric. Man, did you just kill my fucking vibe with that one? No, but
I like her.
I like her a lot. She was
the chick that was with her.
That's Sasha Banks. That's Sasha Banks.
Is that Sasha Banks?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
And her going, who the fuck is that girl? I know that fucking.
Hey, she's another one that's hot as. She's another one that's hot as fuck, and you're like, oh my god.
How did you not immediately recognize it when she does that Hurricane Rana on Boba?
Yeah. I know, right?
With the rock, I did not realize that was Sasha Banks.
Sasha Banks, yeah. But Katie Couric. Katie Sackcliffe. I mean, I saw her in Battlestar Galactica, which was a great remake. She played Starbuck. And then she played a villain in the short-lived remake of The Bionic Woman. She played another bionic person, I think, in there or something.
Yeah, wasn't she like the fembot or something?
Something like that. Yeah. She was like the fembot, exactly. And then if you get to see it, it's hard. You can see it now on YouTube. There's a badass fan remake, like short movie of the Power Rangers, where it's very, very adult like, and it has what's the kid from Dawson's Creek? Jasper Van Dien or something, whatever the hell.
Casper Van Dien?
No, not
Right,
Casper
no,
Van Dien. Whoever that guy is. Casper Van Dien is the guy from Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm talking about. The guy who played Dawson in Dawson's
the
Creek.
blonde hair dude.
The blonde hair guy. He's in there.
I know the incarnation of the movie.
She plays the Pink Ranger in this. And it's the original set of Rangers that they're portraying. Right. But it's an adult version of the Power Rangers,
where he goes back and kills all the other Rangers.
Yeah, one of the Rangers goes rogue and kills the rest of the Rangers, and it's very, very adult. It's very graphic, and she plays the Pink Ranger, and I'm like, she's so effing hot. This woman, I love this girl. Anyway, and she does not look like Katie Couric at all. I just want to make sure that. I'm saying Couric like Keurig, but
she's Katie Couric in a Mando suit.
She's Katie Couric in a Mando suit, right? So then
I'm still blown. I can't believe I didn't realize that was Sasha Banks.
Sasha Banks, yeah. And then we get one of the sexiest women on the face of the planet, Rosario Dawson.
Yeah.
Playing and forgive me because I'm not Star Wars like I am Spider-Man. She plays that girl from the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Or Rebels, whatever.
Ahsoka Tano.
Ahsoka Tano, yeah. Now, what confused me a little bit, and maybe this is just some kind of like thing where it's character development or whatever. She looks no different age-wise than she would, so you recognize her, but isn't she supposed to be much younger?
Well, no, I was trying to explain to you the other day. I think she should be much older.
Right, she should be much older. Right, that's what I'm saying, right? She should be older than what she is.
That's her species doesn't age, like that.
That's the only thing you can think of.
Is 900 years old, but I was explaining to you the other day. The Mandalorian takes place 5 years after Return of the Jedi.
For Return of the Jedi,
Ahsoka Tano was in fucking Clone Wars, which was before fucking, that was like.
That was before Vader.
Yeah. That was the prequels. You know what I'm saying?
Right. That's what I'm saying. So she should be much older than what they had her portrayed. But Rosario Dawson's that hot. She could be 100 years old and still look good as shit.
But that's again the beautiful thing about the Star Wars universe. I mean, they are alien species. I mean,
true.
Grogu, or Baby Yoda. Whatever.
I can't get behind the name Grogu.
I know. I didn't like it either. I didn't like it either.
Every time I hear it, I think Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah. Exactly.
I think it was a bad choice of names.
He'll always be the child. He's still Baby Yoda to me.
Yeah, but he's still 50 years old, and he's still a toddler.
Yeah,
because that species, Yoda is essentially like a 90-year-old man, but he's 900 years old.
Right.
So I mean, it could be a similar thing. You can play with how the species age, and you can get away with a lot of stuff, as long as you haven't previously, set it up at, as far as how they age. And I don't think that was ever touched on how the Twi'leks as a race, how they actually age. I don't recall ever seeing anything about that.
I'm sure there's some kind of mythology in the books out there somewhere. Like I have a friend of mine, John, who has read every fucking book and could tell you what color fucking Ahsoka Tano's toenails are. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know. I don't dive that deep down the rabbit hole.
I know, but I don't know that.
Yeah.
It takes away from my enjoyment of the show. But so we get those characters, and then I'm not even at the big one yet.
Well, hold on. Before you even get into that, since you mentioned Boba Fett,
yes,
how fucked up is it that Jeremy Bulloch died the day before that episode premiered?
I know.
Yeah,
that was weird. That's just weird.
Mm-hmm.
Like not the episode with Boba Fett, but he died the day before the season finale premiered. And if anybody who saw the season finale saw the Easter egg after the credits,
Yeah.
Boba Fett getting his own show, Book of Boba Fett. So
Right.
Jeremy Bulloch, I'm sure if he was still alive, they would have found some way to put him in that show somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, as a cameo or something.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. Because
Yeah,
they're
they
fitting everybody, and these guys are more than happy to jump in and do these little cameos here and there, and
Oh yeah, absolutely.
and that type of thing. I mean, granted, mythology now you don't have anybody alive, aside from these masked people who, as a fan, you know who they are. But
Order 66, when they sent Grogu up to the mountain to commune and call out to the Jedi, it could have been anybody. And because Ahsoka Tano was on the show, a lot of people thought it was going to be Ezra that was going to come to rescue the baby, because Ezra and Ahsoka Tano had a huge love affair.
right.
But at this time in the Star Wars universe, there are still 38 Jedis traveling the galaxy.
Yeah.
Right.
According,
Right.
that weren't wiped out by Order 66.
They're all in hiding.
Now, before I get into, and once again, it's not, if you've seen it, you already know what we're going to talk about. But before I get into it, do you think that they are going to placate not to your buddy who knows her toenail color because he read everything, versus the average fan who watched the movies, maybe dabbled into the animated series a little bit here, so has a good base knowledge of some of this stuff? Do you think they're gonna placate to them first? Because it seems like that would be the easier thing to do.
Show. That's what's so amazing about the show. It is a lot of fan service, but they're reaching out to all different fans. They're reaching out to people who love the books, like the episode where Din Djarin fought the Crate Dragon, that big fucking dragon. He went inside and fucking blew up. Fucking, that was right out of one of the novels. They never ever mentioned a Crate Dragon in any of the series before, and they were like, "Oh, it lives in an empty Sarlacc pit." And they were like, "Yeah, well, when it eats the Sarlacc, because everybody thought the Sarlacc was like the biggest thing, but a Crate Dragon was only ever mentioned in novelizations."
And some of the video games, Crate Dragons do show up in some of the video games as well.
But you know what, though, too? Could it be though too that this is novelization, this is something that the ultimate fanboy is going to know, or is it really good source material to say, hey, you know what, we need them to fight something for the next 15 minutes in this episode?
Yeah, I think
that brings a lot of throwing stuff in, like at the end of the episode where the Tusken Raiders were picking through the rubble of the Crate Dragon. They found the big ball. That's a Crate Dragon pearl. Okay, and that was never mentioned in any of the video games. That was only ever mentioned in the novel. That pearl is like so super sought after and worth like anything.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
But to me, but as a writer, to say, all right, we have to put out, now granted, anything visual is, I always compare a dog's life to a human's life. It's much more elevated. It's much more escalated. In other words, we're going to get through shit faster visually than we are novelization wise. Okay. That's why you have sequels. You have 3 sequels and you have villains that get killed off because the life cycle is much shorter. So my as a writer, I would sit there and say, all right, listen, we're going to have some fanboy service, but I think more to the fact is I had this toolbox full of fucking shit in here that I can pull from. And let me pull this Crate Dragon. Didn't you write about a Crate Dragon before? Yeah, in that book. Okay, you know what? Let's use that for here because that kills me 12 minutes of showing Mando doing this or doing that. So kind of like it's. I don't know that they're doing it solely for that holy shit, or are they saying, you know what? We have so much material that we don't have to recreate shit. You know what I mean?
That's ultimately what I think they're going for, because they're delving into, again, there's so much source material they can pull from. Like I said, the toolbox. And you're going to sit there and say, if I pull this out, the casual fan who doesn't know everything, hasn't read every novelization, maybe hasn't played video games, whatever, they're going to sit there and say, wow, that's cool. and the Uber fan is going to just lose their shit. But
Right.
everybody is having that is so cool. It's just a different level.
Yeah,
Right.
if anything, and not for anything, if anything, you're getting that casual fan to say, "Wow, that was cool." And if they're smart enough, I don't want to say smart enough, but if they're intuitive enough to say, "Let me look and see if that's a thing."
Well,
And
that's exactly
it
what
opens
happened
up
to
other
me.
stuff. Yeah,
That's exactly what happened to me, because when I never really was, I mean, I know everything about all the movies,
right.
and a lot of the comic books. But when The Mandalorian first came out, it made me want to go back and watch Clone Wars and Rebels, because there was a lot of stuff pertaining to the Mandalorian lore in those shows. So I wound up going back to watch those shows. So
Right.
stupid little things like the Crate Dragon or the Pearl is going to make somebody saying, "Is that a real thing?" And then they go back and then they want to look into that. So
And you know what?
It can drive, really, you said, either going back and checking out novelizations, rewatching shows, because again, it piques that interest.
right.
But you actually bring up a good point too. Like and this goes to what we're saying right now. Like shows like Clone Wars and Rebels, which were animated series and stuff like that, you bring to light to me that this is canon. And as a Star Wars fan, I have to watch this. Whereas I know from being an avid cartoon watcher that, sometimes it's just an extra thing.
Right.
And yeah, you can like it. It's a pretty neat cartoon if you're into cartoons. I'm not into cartoons, so I don't watch it. You know what I mean? Like you can give it or take it, but you bring to light to me, it's like, dude, you gotta watch that because, dude, a lot of the shit that they're doing in live action has to do with that specifically.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
it really makes the importance of the animated features that much more important because you're like, hey, dude,
It's
this is
hard.
don't-
It's
don't-
validation. It's validation that
yeah,
this is not something that we put out there just for,
just for
hey, you like
kids.
Star Wars. This is called you need to
No,
watch this because this
no,
is going
think
to
about it, though.
explain a lot of stuff within
Think
the
about it,
live
though.
action.
Think about that. Like, we'll take MCU for an example. Some could argue that for small kids, the MCU can be pretty not graphic, but violent, etc. So what do? Disney makes cartoons for the younger audiences to love these characters and want the toys. And I mean, granted, it's all about buying toys, but like, you understand what I'm saying? So, but those animated features are much more lighthearted. And so I come from that scenario where I do watch the animated stuff, and I'm like, well, I definitely know that this is not like the movie. It's based on the movie or whatever. But this is not like the movie. This is for a younger audience, etc. Whereas
A little bit.
Rebels and stuff like that, and I've seen episodes and stuff like that, they are very well written and they're very good. And not being a super fan, I was like, all right, well, I glance over a lot of stuff because of the fact that I'm like, because I mean, Bob will tell you, I called Bob immediately after finishing The Mandalorian. I said, Bob,
Can you explain the end of the Mandalorian
I
to
was like,
me?
can you explain this? Because I don't know what the fuck just happened. I watched the whole thing. Did you see the whole thing? Yeah, I watched the whole thing. And I'm like, okay, cool. Why?
Get my.
I said, why are people crying? I don't understand. I said, I'm not crying. And I'm a cancer. I'm a person that cries at like
My
telephone
emotions were
commercials.
everywhere.
You know what I mean?
I was happy. I was excited. I was sad. I was on the edge of my seat. I was jumping up and down. If I could have did a backflip, I would have.
And Bob and I are not far. Bob's not far in age from us. Bob's only a couple years older than us, so he's not like it's not like we're generations apart. But Bob explained to me, he's like, dude, you don't understand. Like, this was my life. Like, I guess to me, my life was Spider-Man, whereas Bob was Luke Skywalker and shit. But like, I was like, Bob, why are people crying? I don't understand what's going on. And I'm not trying to be happy about it. I'm like, I want to understand.
It made me feel like a kid again. Like it literally, it grabbed me by the balls just like that.
Like my inner 10-year-old was, my wife looked over at me and like I just had this look of giddiness on my face because that X-wing show. You see an X-wing show up and you're like, okay, well maybe that's the lead ship. You just figure it's going to be a bunch of X-wings coming out to attack this Imperial cruiser.
I was like, oh, an X-wing, and then I was like, Oh, and
Yeah. Then you start thinking, because it's like, and all of a sudden it's like, it doesn't start shooting, it lands, and you're going, okay. And there's a little voice in your back of your head saying,
All right,
no,
we didn't reveal this yet. We didn't reveal this yet. We didn't reveal this yet, but we're getting into it right now. So at the end of the season 2, right, in the finale, this X-wing lands. All right, now they're fighting with what's that guy's name?
Dark Troopers. No,
Moff Gideon, right?
Yeah.
And they have the dark
created
saber.
The Dark Troopers, which again were from the video games. I think I don't know if it was in novelizations originally or if it originally came from a video game, because it was a video game came out like
Dark Troopers were originally people in those outfits. These Dark Troopers were droids.
Yes,
but they make mention of that. They're saying because they were just not. It wasn't
it's
good
like
enough.
third generation. They realized what was wrong with the Dark Troopers was the human element. And now they're totally they're just on droids.
Which made them pretty scary and stuff like that. And made regular troopers obsolete. You know what I mean? That type of thing.
These
would have made them out of Beskar.
But now you see all this happening, and you got Katie Sackcliffe up there just looking so hot doing her thing, and Mando's in there, and he's trying to fight, and they're not winning this fight. They're really not winning this fight. You think
once you're trapped in a small room, there's no way out, and you've got a platoon of super droids.
Yeah, that are going to
pounding through blast doors.
Of the episode, before the X-wing showed up, I really thought Boba Fett was going to come back and save the day.
Okay.
Yeah, I was.
But he did it. But he already did that. But he already did that. He already did that in 2 episodes prior, or 1 episode prior.
Yeah, I know, but because he had the ship and then took off, I thought he was.
I think that would have been overuse. Like Boba Fett, because not for nothing, you go back to fucking Return of the Jedi, he gets fucking slapped and he goes into that fucking pit.
Well, this was his redemption episode. This is they did this because this is how everybody should have seen Boba Fett.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So we get this scene, which is everybody really they really match it up to Rogue One, where in Rogue One you see Darth Vader come in and just annihilate all these rebels as he's coming through with his lightsaber and stuff like that. And it's the same thing, but it's a green sabered Jedi in dark robes. And you're like, holy shit, it's Luke fucking Skywalker.
Yeah.
It's Luke fucking Skywalker.
I loved what I loved the best about how they did it though was you first see the saber on the cams. So it's just kind of all like kind of blue washed out. So it's like that thing of like, ooh, is it? No, can't be. But you're thinking, no, it has to be. But
at first you're just like, oh, it's a Jedi.
You're so used to shows kind of setting you up and being like, this is obvious. This is a Jedi flying an X-wing. It's going to be Luke Skywalker. It has to be Luke Skywalker. But then they do some kind of reveal, and it's not Luke Skywalker.
Right.
As soon as they show him actually fighting through, and you see it's a green saber in a gloved hand.
Yes.
It's like, yeah. And now at that point, you're just giddy inside. You're like, show me his face.
And not for nothing, it's confirmation. Luke Skywalker was as badass, if not worse, than Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Luke Skywalker mastered the Force in such a way. So quickly. And honestly, it does prove to you that if he went to the dark side, what a Sith Lord he would be.
Yeah.
Well, he did go to the dark side.
Well, yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. But what a Sith Lord he would be, because he was so goddamn powerful. And that's why
it makes sense that he would be stronger than Vader, because Vader had the highest midichlorian count ever, and he's Vader's offspring.
Right.
Yeah. What really what I loved more than anything else, and to really show how badass he was now at that point, was that last Dark Trooper. He doesn't cut him in half. He just hands out, and it's just, and you just that Dark Trooper just crushes, and it's just like, that is so fucking badass. Although I will say, going back a few episodes prior, and I just have to say this because I know we're on to the whole reveal, but watching the child in that brig, force choking out.
Oh, that was great.
Stormtroopers, and just tossing them around. Like,
Yeah.
you're a play toy for me. But
Yeah.
anyway,
But no, it's such a
Yeah.
great thing. And then we finally get this reveal, and I was a little put off by the de-aging. It didn't look right to me at first.
I see.
Watched it back, it did.
Saying that,
But
but I
it was
love
weird.
it. I thought it was
When I
good.
watched it back a second time, it looked for some reason it looked a little bit better to me the second time. But like the first time, I'm like, wow, like it looked like this is another actor, and they
Mhm.
superimposed Mark Hamill's face on him.
Well,
That's
that's what they did.
first.
Well, that's what they
Right.
did. Was, I mean, they used another actor and then they used CG to replace his face. Overall, I think what probably would have made more sense, although, and I think you could say, oh, maybe they couldn't afford it, but I think it probably would have been cheaper. Would have been to actually get Mark Hamill to play it,
Yeah.
and use CG to just de-age him.
Yeah.
Just him. You know.
Yeah, but Mark Hamill isn't built that way anymore. They needed someone who had Mark Hamill's build from Jedi.
Yeah. True.
Mark
I
Hamill
think there's ways you could have gotten around that.
I mean, the what do you call it?
He
Who
did
also
actually
works for
recreate his voice from Jedi, though. That was
Yeah.
actually Mark Hamill's voice. They didn't use any kind of video, inserts or cuts or any kind of. He actually recreated his voice from.
I mean, what they could have done, and we say what they could have done, like we're couch potato directors here, but like the guy, what's his name from who plays the Winter Soldier?
Sebastian
Stan, right?
Sebastian Stan, yeah.
Who looks exactly like Mark Hamill. I don't know why.
He does, and a lot of people thought he was going to be, but now they're talking about Luke getting his own show, and Mark and Sebastian Stan being Luke in that show.
And that, which would make sense.
That would be good.
But
I would definitely watch that.
The only problem therein lies is, yes, he looks just like Mark Hamill from back in the day, but he sounds nothing like him.
Right. Well, yeah, he doesn't sound anything like him at all. But
so what would they have to do? Would they have to bring Mark Hamill in to do the voiceover for every episode?
Or Sebastian Stan steps it up and really impresses everybody, and really, as a method actor, watches Mark Hamill over and over again and gets that young Skywalker, feel. You know what I mean? Like, because didn't you think the guy in Solo really reminded you of Han Solo? I thought he did. I thought he did.
I think it's one of those things. I think you've got a decent actor if he can pull off the overall vibe of the character and the way they carry themselves, the way they move. I think it's one of those things you can get over the fact that it's not the voice, because it's not Mark Hamill. You're just looking at somebody who can sit there and continue that story and convince you in how he portrays the role to overlook the fact that it is not Mark Hamill. Right.
And I think as long as the writing is good, stuff like that. But here's the deal, too. We hear that they want to do a what's her name? Sudoku. What the hell's her name again? I always forget her name. Ahsoka Tano. They want to do a show for her. I don't know if I really care.
They announced like 12 different shows that are coming out.
Yeah, they want to do one for Boba Fett. I don't know if I want Boba Fett. I got the Mandalorian. What the fuck do I need Boba Fett for?
Well, this is the book of Boba Fett. It's different.
Yeah.
And I get it. But I mean, how many?
You're gonna. It's gonna be its own separate storyline. Everybody wants Boba Fett.
What I don't want is an oversaturation of spinoffs just for the sake of to satisfy fanboys to say, oh yeah, I got a Boba Fett show, and it's like, all right, you know what? If it's going to be a replication of the Mandalorian in a sense, with maybe some different adventures because it's Boba Fett specifically, I'll watch it. It'll be good, but I'm not going to get anything out of it.
Everybody's going to watch it. It could be called Boba Fett Takes a Shit on Sunday, and everybody's going to watch it.
Title, by the way. It's a working title, by the way. Boba Fett Takes a Shit on Sunday. May the Force be with you. It's like,
everybody has wanted a standalone Boba Fett movie or show since Jedi.
Yeah,
actually, probably since Empire.
Like
since Empire, I think since Empire.
Your Uncle Gus called me.
Yeah,
and he says to me, "What the fuck?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He said, "How the fuck is Boba Fett alive?" He's like, "Didn't he get eaten?" I'm like,
in Jedi.
It's like even the casual fan knows that he cut himself out of the Sarlacc stomach.
Right. Well, everybody's saying that he did the same thing like Din Djarin did with the Krayt Dragon.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But that's actually not how it happened. Actually, in the novels, Boba Fett was rescued by Dengar, another bounty hunter, and was pulled into the.
I was pulled out. Okay.
Yeah, but
Well, see, my thing is again,
your uncle was so pissed that your uncle was so pissed that he was back.
Son of a bitch! How'd you come back?
Now, the thing that I'm more curious about, and maybe it may have been in the novelization, because again, I never read any of the novels, but it's like, hey, all right, Boba Fett gets out of the Sarlacc. How did he lose his armor? And how did the Jawas end up with it? That's kind of the stories that I now want to see. I want to know how is it that the Jawas ended up with his armor, and then, this dude ends up buying it off, the Jawas, and why does Boba never come and collect his shit from that dude?
Yeah.
My theory is somehow he had to, maybe the armor was weighing him down and he needed to take the armor off to climb out of the Sarlacc pit. And then maybe the Sarlacc couldn't digest the armor because it's Beskar and spit it out, and the Jawas found it, and blah 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 blah. That's just me being a
But that's very attainable. I mean, I can take what you just said and say, okay, there you go. But it's like details like that like nobody watching a movie really is even thinking about.
Well, like it reminded me everybody's seen the original movie Excalibur, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when he was thrown into underwater, when Percival was thrown underwater and he couldn't get to the top and he had to take all his armor off in order to swim back to the top, like that's kind of what it said to me. Like maybe the armor was weighing him down and he needed,
And I see that. I definitely see that. Going back, that was Sasha Banks. She looked good.
Yeah.
Banks looked really good.
I don't know how you look with you, man.
Made a force be with her. But what a great, I know. I just totally, I watched the wrong Mandalorian.
Yeah.
But back to the Sasha Banks thing.
Yeah.
To Katie Sackhoff and Sasha Banks, when they first appeared in the series, there was a third Mandalorian with them, a guy.
Yeah.
Yes.
What happened to that dude?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, where'd he go?
He left. But then my girl Ming Na Wen.
Dude, fucking the cavalry from fucking Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., she still looks exactly the same. Like that chick does not age.
She's in her 50s. She's in her 50s. She's probably one of the
she is 50.
She's one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in my life.
Not everybody, Danny. You think Katie Couric's hot?
My wife is
Couric.
My wife is all like, hey, is that Ming Na? Is that Dan's girlfriend?
Yeah, Dan's girlfriend. I know.
I was like, yeah, that's her.
Oh, Katie Couric, tell me some news. This guy. Yeah, I like that Katie Couric. I like that Dan Rather while I'm at it. It's like, but no, I mean,
with you something. So
but no, Ming Na is amazing.
You have seriously twisted dreams.
You know what I mean? I like to have my news. A little coffee. But then we get to that great scene, and we get to the scene where he hands the child off to Luke, and he says, "Luke, you go ahead." He said, "I don't know, Luke. You don't even Luke." And that was a cool thing too, because I read that somewhere too. It's like, this is the cool thing that like all the great exploits that are happening, the Outer Rim doesn't know what's going on. They don't know Darth Vader. They don't know Luke Skywalker. They don't know. They know there's a big fight going on. Like,
well, that's one of the things about this show. It's only 5 years after Jedi, but yet the Mandalorian doesn't know anything about the Jedis.
No.
Yeah.
And it's like we know there's a war happening, but we don't know the details and stuff like that. And that's kind of like and it actually kind of was a cool thing to say, hey, you know what? These exploits and these stories, it's a universe. It's so impossible that light years away, they know what's going on over here, and stuff like that. So in the outer skirts of fucking humanity, where these people unfortunately live, because everybody's a scavenger. You know what I mean? It kind of makes sense to say, yep, we know something big's happening. That's where it stops. We don't get news out here. We don't get anything out here. We're more worried about where my next meal is going to be than we are about the tyranny of the Empire and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So,
I mean, it's just like our own history. It's like you can sit there and talk about a famous battle somewhere, and you don't, unless you really delve into history, and reading, are a specialist in that.
Yeah.
You don't know who the lead general was. I mean, you just know, maybe, I don't know, the Emperor. That's the only thing that's like, as Bob said, it's like that they're not sure about the Jedi.
Right.
I can see him almost be like, it's a thing of like, he's not sure if he's a Jedi, if he's, has, force powers, you know what I mean? And if it's a thing of like, okay, yeah, he's curious, he's not sure. I've seen him do these things and it seems like a force user, where are the Jedi a thing kind of I think it could have played off a little better than that. The fact that he had no knowledge of the Jedi whatsoever was a little far-fetched.
Toenail guy says it's because the majority of the Jedi and Sith were wiped out so many years ago before even Luke came around. You know what I'm saying? So,
but were they there? There was a lot of. Well, I guess they were. Yeah.
Well, you got to think that.
Yeah, because so really the wipeout is episode 2.
Luke was like 21 or something like that when he first premiered in New Hope,
and they were next to nothing.
So all the Jedis were wiped out 20 years before he was born.
They were legend, and they weren't a fact anymore. That's true. So that does make sense, and that in this time period they are folklore. They are religious stories.
And as far as Sith go, there's only ever 2.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But I liked Moff Gideon. I liked him a lot.
Yeah.
I liked him a lot. I thought he was a great thing. And I really liked the episode where he gets the guy, he breaks the guy out of jail and they go undercover.
Oh yeah, Bill Burr. He's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, he is. But like it was a very cool thing to see the Empire not as these like these are military guys. They have lives, they have opinions, they're not all just like falling in line. They all have their own thing and blah blah blah. And I thought that was kind of cool too, to show the humanity or lack thereof in those people as well. Like they're not just blind clones like doing whatever. Like these are people that believe in what they're doing. Some people don't believe in what they're doing, and that's humanity. And I think that was actually very cool too.
Or believed in what they were doing, and then something happened, and they become jaded. Like Bill Burr's character. He's sitting there going like, all my comrades. How many of my friends were wiped out because of your decision? And then, because of that, I'm realizing that, you're just, the ends justify the means, and you'll stomp on anybody, and and you're going to toast these men. That you just blatantly, we're pawns. You could just be tossed away.
Right.
And he says, you know what?
The way I look at it is the Empire is not evil. Okay. No. It's just like any war here on our Earth.
Yeah.
On our side, when we fought Russia, we looked at them as evil. You know what I'm saying? Like in the Cold Wars and everything like that. But on Russia's side, we were the bad guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all a matter of perspective. As and I can't remember now the character's name, but as he's sitting there with Bill Burr, and he's saying, people say they want freedom. They don't want freedom. They want order.
Right.
And it's kind of a valid point. It's like, it's about finding really in your life, you want that balance of freedom and order. You want just enough order to know that you're safe to do what you want to do.
Right.
And it's almost kind of like, in the Star Wars universe, you see it as more of the Empire imposing more order than people want.
Right.
So to speak.
And it brings up the political thing, and it brings up, this is not just a war, and it's political, and it's views and who supports who and stuff like that. And I think that was a very powerful scene, if anything.
And what I think makes the Empire, quote unquote, evil is the fact that it is being led by someone who is evil.
Well, yeah.
And with his power and his charisma, And
For many years,
Palpatine,
nobody knew Palpatine was a Sith. He was
exactly.
he was a senator.
Yeah.
Exactly. But he's using his force and his ability to persuade, through the force to push everything in a certain direction,
Right.
and making people think that, oh yeah, this guy's got it right. And
Right.
and they're seeing of, all right, we need to do this, not realizing that there is an evil agenda behind that.
Right.
Yeah. So now we go through all that. We get through this great episode, and we get through this great season, and we're exhausted, and we're like, and then we have an end credit scene, and we have a great end credit scene, which honestly I forgot when I was watching. I forgot to watch, right?
Well, that's because no other season has ever had.
Yeah.
And an end credit scene. So yeah, so I literally did forget.
I was getting ready for work. I wasn't expecting an end credit scene. I was getting ready for work. I watched it before I got to went to work in the morning, and I still had the credits rolling, and I'm getting dressed, and I was like, what's this?
Right. And people are like, oh, and how about that end credit scene? And I'm like, oh, how about I didn't watch it yet? So like, I said, let me watch it.
I was the same way. I didn't realize, because again, I'm just like, okay, cool. It's the last one.
I heard it was one,
and I stopped, and I'm watching the gallery thing, and I'm just like, wait a minute.
So I went back to
end credit. I was like, well,
so, like I'm at work. It's like 3:00 in the morning, and I'm like, let me just go on YouTube real quick and look up Mandalorian season finale end credit scene, right? And it popped up, and then here we get such a callback to Return of the Jedi. We see Boba Fett come back to where Jabba was laid
Jabba's
to rest,
palace,
and that other guy, which was Jabba's henchman, is sitting
Fortune and gotten himself all fat and lazy, sitting on the throne.
Bib Fortune. He was Jabba's butler.
Yeah. And he's sitting there like, I took over for Jabba, you know how they talk and shit like that. And it's funny as shit. And he fucking just kills him, and then Boba takes the fucking throne. Yeah. And I'm like, how fitting is that?
And it's great because it was such a Boba Fett kind of way of doing it too. I'm not going to say nothing. I'm just going to shoot you in the chest, walk up there, and just push your body out of you. Like, you're in my seat.
and not for nothing. If you look at it too, Boba Fett, going back to what you're saying about it's a redemption story. He's like cleaning up shit and saying, you know what, you fucked me,
motherfuckers.
Yeah, you fucked me, all right, and it made me get fucking eaten by this fucking thing, because I'm fucking around with this bullshit, and then and he took what was his, and I think that was
what I liked about it too, about the end credit scene too, is because from the time Boba Fett showed up in The Mandalorian, he was basically a good guy because he was on Mando's side because they owed him a debt. You know what I'm saying? So he was doing all the good guy shit. So at the end, he was like, yeah, I'm back and I'm ruthless and I'm just shooting this motherfucker in the chest and taking the throne.
Right. Well, all that really proves is that he's not good, he's not evil, but he does have a code.
He's an opportunist.
He's an opportunist, but he has a code of ethics, which makes him honorable in a sense.
Right.
Makes him honorable, but he's not your guy.
He's like the transporter.
Yeah. He's for him.
He is truly a bounty hunter and a mercenary.
Right.
Yeah.
My gun belongs to whoever's paying me the most money. He actually says, to the Mandalorian, he says, I'm not a Mandalorian. I'm just a guy trying to make his way.
Right.
And it's like, hey, I'm not for you. But again, you show, I'm indebted to you now.
Right.
You held up your end of the deal, and you know what? I'm going to help you out because it's the right thing to do in this moment. And that's what he does, the right thing to do in that moment based on what's happening around him.
Right.
Now, what you didn't see there, and this was cut out of the show, was that when he says that once, and when he's in the scene when he has Sasha Banks and he has Katie Sackcliffe there, and again it's Katie Couric there, and she's reporting on everything, and he says this is the last voice you'll ever hear, or whatever he says. What they cut out is that until you call this number, and he gave her a phone number. He said, because sausage, sausage. Little thing comes out. Yeah, I guess, you know. He's like, baby, I got you. So, you know,
it was.
but what a great thing. It does set up for season 3.
Mhm.
Okay. Not in a way.
Season 3,
like,
the Mandalorian takes on Danielson.
yeah, and he
Yeah.
should, because fucking Danielson's an asshole. Complete asshole in the whole thing. You know, but
That was the funniest thing, by the way, in that one episode. They were in the school auditorium and they were like, "Bullshit! I heard you were the bully."
yeah. Me and my daughter were watching it last night, and we were cracking the hell up because they said about that, and then they talked about his daughter, right? And Bella goes, "Man, they know everything about what's going on with these people." It's like it was like funny as anything because they just were shouting stuff out. It's like it's that guy knows everything, you know? Like what the fuck?
Yeah,
We're going to talk about Cobra Kai in another episode, definitely,
yeah.
because
When I finish the season, and
Yeah,
Matt's got to catch up. But speaking of which, I'm not doing the Wonder Woman episode with you guys.
no, he's not doing
I do not want to be spoiled. I have not seen it yet, but I'm planning on going out. I was talking to my girlfriend
Yeah.
last night. I want to go get a Fire Stick and have it broken,
Yeah.
and then I can watch Wonder Woman, and then in another episode we can get my input on Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I will get your input on one of them. I definitely would. I watched it. So what's going to happen is
Also, the dude who's the Mandalorian was in
Wonder Woman. So it's a nice little tie-in. And that's actually going to be our next episode. We're going to be talking about Wonder Woman 1984 right here on Cave's Not Included. That's coming up with our special guest, Lily Hernandez, who comes back with us on this show. Who's a big Wonder Woman fan. So we're going to have her on along with Matt, and we're going to talk about Wonder Woman 1984 and go from there. It's going to be a great episode. But guys, all we could say is Mandalorian. What a great time we have with this. What a great time with this. We're going to talk more Mandalorian. We're going to talk more Star Wars. We're going to talk more superheroes right here on Capes Not Included. So for my good friend Bobby T, for Matt Stunner, yes,
New Comic Book Wednesdays will be returning as soon as the lockdown in Philadelphia is over. So you can look forward to new episodes of New Comic Book Wednesdays.
That's true. New Comic Book Wednesday, which is hosted by Bob Taylor, has been on hiatus just because of everything that's been going on, the shutdowns in Philadelphia. We will definitely bring them back on as soon as we can get them back up. You can check them right out in the playlist. When you go through here, there's a bunch of there. Bobby has a great time showing us what's going on for the week and what's the what to reads and what not to reads, and he gives us all the different toys and stuff like that. So it's a great time on that as well. So make sure you check that out, and you can go to New Comic Book Wednesdays on Facebook. You can also check out Bob. He actually does another show where he does on what is that? What's the other one you do?
We do another show. It's every Wednesday night at 10 p.m. till 2 a.m. in a group called League of Extraordinary Collectors. It's called the Two High Toy Guys, and we do live toy auctions for 4 hours every Wednesday night.
Yeah, so this is something you want to jump into because these guys they scour the planet, much like Mando, and they get all these great toys and these great.
Where does he get those wonderful toys?
Toys. And better yet, where can you pay for them? Because that's what he wants. He wants money. So you can
have him too.
So is that a private or public group?
It's a private group. You have to, but anybody who knows me on Facebook, send me a friend's request. I'll invite you to the group and add you, and then you can see it every Wednesday. And I'm not the only auctioneer there.
Right.
There are 8.
No, they do a great job.
There's somebody every day.
Yeah, there's so much stuff on there, and even if for nostalgic purposes, a lot of guys will bring up stuff. They're like, "Hey, you remember this toy? You remember that toy?" And then they happen to come across this, that, and the other thing, and you're like, "Oh wow, how cool was this? How cool was that?" So it is a great group to jump onto. Bob Taylor is Taylor, and you can friend request him. Who's going to get his friend requests are going to get blown up, and just have him jump on there, and he scours the planet for great toys. He gets them, and then he sells them. And what else can you do? So you want to check that out. So
I'm a fan, but I take cash.
Yeah. Cash is good. Cash is good. Cash is always good. You cannot pay him with the child, or anything like that. He's got enough of those already. So, so what happened is, once again, for Bobby T, for Matt Sunner, my name is Danny J. Until next time, keep your cape in the wind and your eyes to the stars. Have a great time, everybody.
May the force be with you.